which Lisa's going to embellish for us, November 18th and 19th. And I know you sent out an email already, and we have a sign-up sheet. So anybody have any questions or concerns for me? I'll let Lisa take over.
So last year, the feedback that we got was, with all the work that we put into setting up this show, wouldn't it be nice if we had it going for at least another day? So we're going to try it for the whole weekend, Saturday and Sunday, November 18th and 19th. We're going to have drop-off times of your art and craft items the Thursday and Friday before, so the 16th and 17th. I did just send out an email you should have gotten. But if you can let me know as soon as you can if you would like to participate. We want to make sure that we're going to have enough coverage for both days. Laura's going to be working on some advertising. This is great. So far we have 6 people signed up. Last year we had 9 artists, so we're kind of on our way to putting together a nice show. The setup will be the same as last year. Just let me know if you're interested.
Okay.
And you can, yeah,
Sure. Yeah. So tonight, thank you for coming, and it's my pleasure to introduce Natalie Bryant. Natalie is a local gal, and she has a fine arts background in art and design, and she's going to demonstrate felt painting, which I have no idea, so I'm very interested to see, and I'm sure she'll embellish and tell us all about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for coming out on this cold night. I know, I can't believe the cold is already happening.
Yeah.
What happened? Well, we finally got no rain, and then now it's the cold. So yes, my name is Natalie Bryant. I was Natalie Burns growing up in this town, going through school system, and so I was part of the Wethersfield Art League right after college for a little bit, but then as I moved into different states and moved around and met my husband, I did not keep up with the membership. So I look forward to being a part of this tonight, and then in the future maybe be a part of the league as well. So my background, I went to college for photography and printmaking, and so that's kind of been my background. I've dabbled into a lot of things, a lot of mixed media with papers and acrylics and kind of abstract kind of imagery, which has been kind of my constant. But pandemic hit and I needed some stress release, and so I really got into the fiber arts. I think that it's just a really interesting medium, like to be able to just like work with your hand, as any art is, but able to work with your hands with the fiber arts is just has been very therapeutic and very relaxing. And so as I was doing a lot of weaving, cross-stitching and other things, I really got into the wool and needle felting. And typically you see needle felting as like a 3D object, like a little bird, which the one bird I made, I gave it as a gift. And so I don't have any of the fiber arts that I worked. But I just got really interested into maybe the mixed media of wool and what it can do. And I decided to do the art walk here in Wethersfield in July. And so I decided to work this. So this is First Church on Main Street, a church that I had a member and attend. And so I knew the spot that I wanted, and I knew sort of the location. And so as I thought about it, I was able to just start. So I have a progression of work on First Church, and as I go through, I'll kind of maybe reference this as I go through, because really, as any kind of painting that you do, you just build upon layers. You know, watercolor, a little tricky to build on layers, but really just layers upon layers. So I'll go ahead and start with that. Now, as you all are artists, I assume the transfer of imagery, I can just briefly tell you what my process is. And so when I created, your design, you doing those sketches at first, kind of figuring out, okay, what does my image want to be like? So started with the sketches, and then went ahead and did the sketch on sort of the size that I wanted. Obviously, we all kind of take that like for granted. Canvases are the standard, but what I am using is actually a wool felt. It's a combination wool and felt. So if you want to go around and touch it, I'm all about touching because fibers you need to touch, you need to feel it. So there's a wool felt combination that's going to create the canvas. That's going to create the base that I'll go ahead and use. And so when thinking of sort of my design, I'll go ahead and do my sketch, and then I'll go ahead on the back of it and create with a graphite pencil around the lines that I did sketch, and then on the felt, I'll go ahead and lay this down and actually almost pinprick it with like a little scoring to get just the very basic outline of my sketch. So as you can see there. So that's an interesting concept. So as you all, I'm sure, feel how planned do you want to do this? How not planned? How do you want inspiration to just, start? And it depends on your approach for your image. And so I had an idea with the art walk. I went in and I really didn't make a sketch. I just kind of started putting colors down. But then again, having that idea of where you want. So really, basically, the start of my image will be the basic colors, and I will use a felting needle. So if you don't know, a felting needle is a needle that has little spurs around the edge of the needle. And so when you stab your wool felt with the wool on top, you're creating a bond. You're creating this wool to like adhere and attach. And so for my first spot, what I'll do is I'll kind of take the wool, and if I wanted to, let's say, create sort of a palette, per se, if I wanted to create sort of my own color, there's so many varieties of wool out there. You can get very Merino wool, which is very sleek, soft. You can get very fibrous wool. So when, like, going to Michael's or Joann's, usually Amazon, you get sort of a little packet of beautiful colors, and some of it can be really smooth and silky, and some of it can be porous. I have this sort of display of wool that I have created, and I use Wethersfield designs up in New Hampshire. I really like them. I've used them for my trivet making, wool, like weaving pot holder type things, but their wool and their yarn is just, I love it. I love the fact that it's multicolored in depth within the colors, but I'm also gonna take into consideration that I'm gonna kind of make my own colors, my own palette. So say I have a bright kind of orangey with a dark rusty color, I'll go ahead and spread the wool out and like literally just combine the colors by spreading it out. So, as I see, I'm going to look at my imagery, kind of have already an idea in my head what I'd like to do. But I'm firstly just going to base my just colors down. So I'll go ahead and take a small, and you really don't need a lot, especially when you're putting down your first colors. And I'm kind of put it in this area right here. I can see in my sketch I have the outline of the pumpkin. And I'm going to go ahead and bear with me as I usually have this on my lap and I can really dig at it. But I'm just going to go major. I have a wool, sort of a wool mat in the back, but I absolutely love this porous plastic thing. First of all, it gives the satisfaction of like that sound. The noise. It's really satisfying. But it also is just, it's going to be very like pliable and easy for me to, but I will keep the wool because my needle will go through this type of plastic sheet thing, and this was just like found underneath some electronic that came through the house. So it's amazing what you can find that's like, oh, this works really well. So, okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and spread my colors around. I'm going to go ahead and kind of see where I'm at here. So also, as you can see, I'm taking the needle and I'm spreading it too. I'm also kind of guiding it to where maybe I would like it to be. I'm not going to worry about shading. Well, I do. I have it in my head, shading, always kind of looking at the dimension of where the light is coming from, where do you want those shadows, and where are you looking to really build up that depth. So that's also, very much in my head as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just poke it. So right now, we're going to get it to be just, get it down. We're going to poke it as much as we can. You're going to see that there's going to be a lot of holes. Eventually those holes will relax. I know that in my final product, I will hide the whole area. But what I am using is a really more dense needle at first to really get the very base, the fibers down. And then I'll use a more smaller needle and a little bit more gentle to finalize like the colors too. So let me go do that. And then I'm going to see that there's this pumpkin right here. I'm going to get sort of like that base dark color as much as I can before. This will also kind of lend to like getting really like nitty gritty into that one little spot. When really as painting you need to step back, you need to kind of start your canvas and kind of spread out. So that is important to be able to kind of build yourself to step back, look at what you're doing, and then kind of also, get a little bit away from sort of the nitty-gritty parts that you're trying to lay out. So here I'm taking a little bit of that rust color and mixing in with more of a brown color to kind of create my own color. And it's just literally pulling the wool.
Is it oily at all, Natalie?
The wool?
Yeah.
No. Sometimes you do get that like silky, like the Murano wool is a little bit more silky,
Yeah.
but this is just that clear natural wool.
And the name of the place you said was Harrisville?
Harrisville Designs. It's in Harrisville, New Hampshire.
Okay.
They have a beautiful shop. They have a mill that you can take a tour with. It's a beautiful. I love that. It's a beautiful place, and they're so super nice. So literally, I'm taking just a small piece for the stem, and I'm just going to start rubbing. And so here I'm going to start really kind of like getting into the outline detail. I'm going to bring my needle and spread out the wool and just poke, poke, poke.
And you're pushing it into the background felt?
And literally, stabbing. I will go ahead and maybe do a side prick.
Get all your aggressions out.
It really is.
It
is like.
you see the fibers coming through.
That would be perfect for.
Sure. Yeah. So as you can see,
I like that.
it's literally like attached to the plastic. I have to like break it up. But it's almost like one of those, you have those black hole, like the the black pores.
Yeah,
And you take one of those like puree strips and you like pour it out. And then you can get, but as you can see, my needle has poked the fibers into there.
Wow.
So this is where also like archiving,
Yeah, wonderful.
still learning about that. You know, I mean, obviously this is fiber arts. I think fiber arts have a little bit less longevity than like the paints and that type of thing. But I think it in a sealant, when you're like, whether it's like an adhesive or something before you frame, I think is an important part of the process too.
Have you ever used material that's not wool?
Yes. So
Because I itch.
I thought, hey, I do these pot holders. Let me try to felt on the pot holder and see how I could do it. So I did a little experiment, and we can pass this around. I lost so many needles. Needles will break very easily during this process too. I did lose a lot of needles doing this that made me say, no, I'm not gonna, because I was gonna approach this experience with like a pot holder type thing. But as you can see, there is it's an interesting. So within the fiber arts, I wonder like canvas. I think is depends on your canvas. I really think a wool felt that has some kind of combination of wool in it is an important part as your 2D canvas. I think that's an important part as your canvas. Now, what I've done before is for this imagery, what I used was a Q-snap frame. I don't know if you've seen these. So this is what I do a lot with the cross stitch. So I literally stretch my wool around this and then slide the bars through to create tension and tautness, and then I use this plastic thing behind it, and I was able to kind of move it around and use that. So as you see here, I've started with basic outlines, and then kind of like you're too excited to like get into the details. You kind of hold back a little bit because you do want to get into that, but it's easy to be able to not go through. So I'm going to move on to something that I will continue with this. So this was sort of my progression piece that I worked on. And so as you can see, you can see really in-depth holes that I've poked in, but I'm really building up the color. So it's really building up, but it's also really interesting to literally have these just light variations, these light stroke paints that I can cover up as well and it can still show up, but then also really thinking about, you're building it up, you're building up the colors.
So you put more colors on top of what you've already punched in.
Most definitely, yeah. Keep on at it. Keep on stabbing, keep on, building it up. But now, as you can see, it was just like, oh, these little holes, they're driving me crazy. But that's going to go away. So you're just going to add more to it. And then also to be able to move your needle around. As I build more color. So I'm going to just keep at it. And you get those little like, oh, that works, that doesn't work. Same painting,
Can you take some fiber out if you said, oh no, that's horrible?
Yes. So I was able to, with my piece here that I did at the art walk, let's see. I was not appreciating like a certain way that this was looking, the steeple was looking. So I was able to take away my fibers and then relay.
Okay.
So yeah, and then there's a point where you you have to just hold on for a little bit, step back, don't add more, just go on to something else, you know. So, so here, what's really fun is to be able to just really get detailed. So I have these yellows, kind of wheats. I'm able to twist the wool to be a kind of a long stem, and I'm able to just like kind of poke, get some basis in there, get it to be taut a little bit, and then just be able to shift with my needle, shift the fibers down to make more of a straight line. And then, you know, there's a time where you just have to get at it. You have to really poke a lot to be able to get your base down, focus on, you know, the next step. So.
What do you put on your lap so you don't end up poking through onto yourself?
So you can see here, this is a really thick wool part. What I did with the A-frame, or the Q-snap frame, is I literally like put it between my legs and was able to like go focus in the middle part. But yeah, no, definitely like protection. When you're doing 2D, I mean, when you're doing 3D, you have your fingers and you're, you know, poking and you're looking at the space around it. Whereas that 2D feel, you know, you just want to focus on that surface, and so having as much protection is the best. So, and then, I mean, what I love about this is being able to bring those colors out. So like, I have this dark stem, but I'm going to take some of this light and just lay it on top of it and poke. Bring it out a little bit lighter.
Is that the same thing as broderie? But it's just you doing...
This is called felting, and it's actually using a needle that has spurs. And so as it goes into the fibers, it literally is like binding them together. It's making them so that they don't move. I mean, it's so easy to lay, do a few pokes, and it'll stay there, and then I can start building up the layers.
I thought about that.
So here, like, and it depends too, like, how porous do you want it? Do you really want it tight? Do you really want the colors to be, like, focused in and tight around it? Or do you want it to be loose? Like, you know, this is where the longevity kind of comes into play. But if you're enjoying it in this moment as it being pretty loose, you know, that's an idea to work with too.
Now, will these be framed behind glass?
So,
How do you display them?
right. So what, as an embroiderer, as a cross stitcher, I have done a lot, like, so the church that I worked on, I put it in a sort of an embroidery frame.
Okay.
And then it's at the Wethersfield High School for the alumni show that they're doing. So, but I actually put it in a smaller frame because we didn't have a bigger frame, so it's not the image that I did, but a smaller image of it. It's all folded in the back. But I have a photography piece up there too. So, so it did. I personally would not put it under glass just because the fiber arts I feel needs to be free. I feel like, especially fiber is, you know, I'm all about like touching and feeling and, you know, getting that to be, so as an embroidery hoop, I would, you know, focus on more doing that as a frame, or even stretching the wool felt around a frame.
Did you ever do like words in felt?
Words?
Yeah, like a Bible verse or a quote.
I've not done words yet, but I would think that it would be pretty easy because as I did this line, I can move the needle down the edge and make a pretty straight line. And it can curve. It's just very flexible and porous to be able to make that curve. So
You just have to
that's a
use
lot of work.
You have, is that chalk or is that like a marker?
So this, my wording behind here,
Yes.
it's just a graphite pencil. So I was able to do my sketch and transfer my sketch onto this wool. And then that's sort of been my guideline. And so being able to then take this is, if you want to fill the wool, it's pretty porous. And so you can stretch it and then really make, really make the wool straight in your writing.
Have you ever combined things and done like any embroidered details like in it, or?
Yeah, so the mixed media is totally something I'm like really interested in. I've taken wool and I didn't have I didn't have the background of a wool felt. And so being able to incorporate that into canvas is still like really intriguing to me.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
but and two, I am semi-new to this too. So, but there's a lot of ideas that I'm going to explore for sure.
Who was your mentor towards that?
Well, my mom probably. She loves felting. She just took a felting class here at the community center, and she loved that. And so I've always had like fiber arts as kind of my thing. And so just to be able to think that, a 2D painting, I totally do that in wool too. And so there's a lot of artists that are really coming up in fiber arts. There's one artist that you can, just searching them on Instagram, you're able to see just a variety of what people are doing in the 2D aspect of things too. So that's pretty exciting as well. There's one lady that, I'm not sure if she's Canadian or not, but she's done a whole like Anna Green Gables series. It's just beautiful. Landscape is my thing as well, and so being able to really bring out the riches of landscape is something I'm intrigued about too. So yeah. So I left my stem here pretty dark because I wanted to show how to lighten up something that you put something in there. And you can see here that I started to do that. So I'm looking for that light source. And I put, like, my base is pretty dark, and I'm going to go ahead and add sort of just a hint. So I'm going to add this hint. And I'm just going to blend it in almost. I'm going to take it to the side and kind of stab the wool from the inside. I'm going to spread out my needle a little bit, and it can get very like webby, like almost like a spider web. So just to be like to relax the wool as much as you can, and not be as webby as it may be looking. And then also I kind of like to rub, and so just kind of go in a little bit too, just to get it down, get those colors in, mix them up.
Is it the bigger the pen, the finer it goes in, or lesser the pen?
It is. So I am using still a pretty dark, I should have actually, thank you for reminding me. I'm using a pretty heavy needle right now, and probably having a lighter needle going in for those fine details is actually better. Yeah. So yeah. You have a little bit of a lighter, finer needle. I'm gonna go ahead and so here's my little like handful of colors, like your palette.
Yeah,
I'm just literally like, okay, what needs to be here, and what can kind of. It's a little bit of a lighter brown. But what's exciting here on these wools that I like from Hairspell, and I have no affiliation with Hairspell, I just like them, so I'm all about, but they just have so many colors within their color. They've already added those oranges, so it's like a painting already palette that you have with the wool that you're working with.
So did you get your stuff off of Amazon or?
Yep, so I got my needles off of Amazon, and then I've been using the wool from Wethersfield Design in New Hampshire.
Oh,
Yeah.
And Natalie is doing a workshop this Saturday, teaching, anyways,
Yeah, so
here in town.
it will be very fall, like probably
Where did
working
you
with
get the idea to start doing the felting in a canvas
on a
tray?
canvas.
Yeah.
Well, the art walk was an inspiration to be like, okay, I think I could do this. I don't want to do painting. It was too hot.
Yeah.
That day was extremely hot in July. I was like, what could I do? And I'm like, oh, I have all this wool. I really would like to attempt to do this because they had a lot of I apologize for pronouncing it wrong, but kind of painting outside,
Yeah.
and I wasn't able to do one of the scheduled ones. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be really interesting? Because I took a landscape class in my college with one of my favorite professors, and it was just so much fun. Like to be able to look at landscape and create that image, and not necessarily like the exact image, but so I knew fiber arts would create sort of this interesting effect of landscape, and so I thought, oh, 2D and then painting with wool because it's just so relaxing. Not up here.
No, that's
It is
really
relaxing.
neat. You're painting with the wall.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
Yeah.
And you have beautiful highlights going on there. It's amazing, that from back here.
Yeah,
Looks like
so
a paint.
you can really and feel, and it is going to be completely different looking at it, up close. But
Yeah.
being able to being able to step back.
And
to
the
be able
texture
to do
is
that.
fabulous.
And the texture is the best, yes, for sure. Great, so that was a little bit of that highlight that I wanted to show you guys.
Does this only work with wool?
The needle felting.
I mean, if you had like an acrylic, does it have the same bonding effect with?
With acrylic paint.
No, I'm thinking with like an acrylic,
Acrylic
fibrous
wool.
yarn.
Oh, with
Yarn or something.
Well, I don't know if you want to attempt to feel one of these needles, but if you, I mean, all I did, but like I think you can like if you take this needle and just feel going the opposite direction, you'll feel a little like spur, and I think wool is important for that spur to bond.
For it to really work.
Right. As far as yarn, it could be too thick, but totally ability to try. I am all about I'm all about trying. I'm all about seeing what works, what doesn't.
Yeah.
These will break. I already had 3. I was counting my needles. I'm like, okay, my 3rd one broke on this already. Will I have enough needles for the demo? But I don't know if anybody else wants to feel it.
Jabbing so hard, maybe, right?
Yeah. So yeah. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot to be able to work with. And then as I said too, like these, because it looks, I'm gonna go ahead and just
I think I'm gonna try that.
play right on top of it, spread it out. I'm gonna rub it a little bit. I'm gonna work on the sides just to get an extra bond in a different direction. Because if you go in one direction, it's not combined. It's not getting that bond that the wool wants it to have to be able to. So yeah, I'm gonna keep on going.
Do you recommend a person do a, cause I was thinking about doing some writing and then try that.
Yeah, so
And-
it's important to practice. So my first sort of painting I did was the sunflowers. As you can tell, sunflowers are my favorite. So you can pass this around as well.
Oh, that's
Of
nice.
just, being able to just practice and like, oh, this will be really fun. And is an important part, I think. of the process.
Do it help with therapeutic, if you have stress-related things and you want to do something therapeutic?
Definitely. This and cross stitch with you're using a needle and you're stabbing fabric is the ultimate to get your stress release. So
really good.
I highly and
On the wall.
I know, yes, exactly. I was like, okay guys, I have a needle, you guys have to step away. And so my two boys that I absolutely love, but they are a little needy sometimes, so like, I got a needle, guys.
It's your turn.
I got two boys too.
Do you sign your works of art with a pen?
I know, good question. So with that, I created a little, I have a little bit of a symbol. I'm still kind of developing it, but I did create like more of a symbol with a darker color in the corner type thing. So I used wool to
Oh, good.
Wow.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I really, as I am a mixed media, I do appreciate the fact that signage would need to be in wool if you're working in wool.
So neat.
So I just stabbed myself. You are gonna hurt yourself. Oh, you are gonna get stabbed.
Is the wool, is that natural dyes that they use, or what makes all the colors?
So they have a mill that they color their wool. They have a variety of different wools, and so within their mill, I know that they color their wool. As far as naturally dyeing, I would like to do that tour
Yeah,
to see,
just curious.
but yeah. I really feel like this is like part of the wool system that they are using their yarn for, and so they're using the natural wool as part of that. And as something as organic as like nature and plants and being able to kind of represent it as much as you can is also sort of that connection. So you can see I take a little piece. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tuck it right in, and I can just move it in so that it's not, obtruding the line of the pumpkin. And that's where you can and then you can take the the orange of the pumpkin and bring it over on top.
When you put it in a frame, you just stretch it?
I would stretch it. Yeah.
Stretch it, do you glue it?
So my stretcher bars, so I would go ahead and stretch it with, as any canvas I would do, with a staple gun and stretch it around stretcher bars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dry or wet? Would you do it dry?
Now I've not done wet felting before, so wet felting is another, I personally would do it dry just because that's what I know, and I'm able to make it taut as being able to wet the edges so it molds to the frame is another good experiment as well to try that. Yeah.
It must be hard though, because you're stretching it, to do that.
I probably would stretch this first as well. So if I had stretcher bars, I probably would stretch first. Yeah, but the fibers are, this canvas is going to get stretched. So being able to stretch this, it's pretty, giveable. I mean, it's, you have your weave that's more dense and the more giveable weave.
And that's wool also.
This is a wool felt.
Yeah, so that it's compatible.
Yeah, I would do a wool felt. Sometimes there's more acrylic in wool felts, the combinations, I would get as much as a wool as possible. Yeah. So as you can see here, the back, it has that pores that are been dug through. So we worked a lot with pumpkin. I probably won't finish tonight, but I did want to get some of the color in here. And so I'll just go ahead and just take.
They're beautiful.
Aren't these beautiful? I just this really makes it. If I didn't have, any kind of paint, it's your material. It's how you work with that material. It's what it gives you. That's like the most important part. And so this material, this wool, has so much depth to it that that's what has created sort of this love of being able to work with it. So I'll just, as I did before, I'll just lightly add a ground. Just go ahead and add more and coat. So see, at first I'm like, oh, these holes, you just have to relax, it will all come up. As any painting that can get frustrating, the more time you are with it, the more time that you just keep on going, it will come up and be able to be like, oh, that worked really well. Those colors worked really well. Even though it just is that feeling of like, I think I got it right, or okay, this image is working well. With any art, there's many pieces that I'd push to the side because that feeling isn't there. But here it's just easy to be able to keep on going.
So do all needles have equal points, or some have fewer?
Some spurs. Some of them have a little bit more spurs for that more dense bonding, and then the lighter ones have a little less of a dig, and so it's a little more finer. So they come in sort of, the ones that I've seen are large, medium, and small. Sometimes they have a little color on the top of it to see which size they are. If you Amazon needle felting needles, you'll see a vast array of different types of needles. I really can't plug a different needle more than, I'm more of I really like these fibers compared to other ones, but the needles have just been kind of basic anyway, so. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and bring my needle up, take the green up, and just see what I can do here. And kind of create sort of this layered look to it. It may work, it may not work. And I'm trying to create not so much a cookie cutter look, but really kind of that blend of colors to be able to. And it just feels like, and if I don't like that, I can go ahead and just literally take it right off.
Oh, cool.
And I could just take, hey, that didn't work very well.
And your felt underneath doesn't get damaged or anything?
It's gonna, also too, I feel there's a little, because I rubbed really hard in one spot, I can feel a little, pilling happening. Mm-hmm. But that's just, it's gonna have those holes, but because of the wool, you can't really...
You're gonna cover it.
You cover it. You cover it. If I was to do a major thing here and then take it out, I think with one of my pieces that I did here, I think I took out a piece. There was some holes I was able to kind of cover up a little bit, but that that's your intentional too, on your intentionality when you're doing the image, like, okay, I'm not gonna have something there because I'm not gonna easily take it out. And if you need to practice on that and do it somewhere else and then come back, I would highly make those choices in sort of a practice piece than being able to put it on your thing. But to be able to take a little bit, and there might be some fibers left over, just to take a little bit away, and then, so like I want to do a darker green in that spot, I'm going to go ahead and take that away and just add the green. And I'm going to kind of mix too a little bit if I can. I'm going to use my fingers a little bit too, just to spread them out. And then even maybe take the light and the green and do a little mix.
So is the wool sold like by the yard or by weight? How would you?
They have it, so those bolts are like, they sell them like in one bolt of like $20 for that little bolt of section there. So, but it's gonna last you. This is gonna last long. If everyone did the workshop, it will still last a long time. You really, like these sunflowers, I only had a small little section by me, and I just, was able to just take the littlest bit, and it created, a lot of depth, So. How am I doing that?
Good. Oh, fantastic.
So I know I probably won't finish tonight, but and two, like, that was hard because there's a time frame for the art walk, and I was like, okay, I really gotta beat the, work this, and I really feel like something like this, I'm gonna take my time and do it in a few sessions. I think you're subject to maybe overworking it a little bit. So be careful about that, as with any kind of medium and painting that you do. But when it feels right, it feels right. And then, yeah. So I would say, because this is a cool effect, but it actually is bothering me a little bit. So I would like it to like pin down a little bit. And a little straggler between these two. You can just lift it up a little bit. And then lift up the fibers and pull it apart a little bit. I just think with like the different colors, it just creates a cool effect and a cool depth of the imagery. And then mixing that color and just creating it right on top of the other colors. Making this thin as you'd like it to. You can see the vine that's starting a little bit, and just laying it right on top.
I just pulled up all the colors on their
Wow.
website.
They were out of the orange, the deep orange, for a while, and I was like, oh gosh. So sometimes they're out of stock, but sometimes they come back pretty quickly as far as the colors. So I'm doing a little mix of brown here, kind of getting a. And too, I mean, it still has that brown, but then it still has the brightness of that green.
Yes.
But you can still kind of keep to the. I like to hold it down sometimes when I'm really stabbing, just to get a good base down.
Something satisfying about that.
Oh my goodness.
What's satisfying is to create something so beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Just by doing this.
I know. Well, as I mentioned, we were trying to have a workshop
Yeah.
Saturday, but I did talk with Natalie, and if that doesn't work out, then there's interest.
Very
She
much
would
this-
work with us in the future.
This spring
Yeah.
too, if anyone's interested,
Yeah.
I just could see that being really neat with all the different colors that are blooming and being able to really just capture a lot of depth and stuff in some
Yeah,
kind
so
of
let us
imagery.
know
So
if there
so
is
if
interest.
there's interest, yeah. But no, I am in town.
Yeah,
Can answer
thank
any
you.
questions. I'm learning too as I keep going, and but I don't know. I just think that it's just really some fun potential
Oh, absolutely.
to being able to work with these fibers. So yeah, yeah.
Really beautiful. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
So has questions too. Also, I was limited here with this palette, but I do have a variety of what the wools have looked like. I've gotten these over the years through Amazon, but even if it's just taking a little bit of white, and I literally just have like a hint of it, and so I'm gonna put just that highlight at the top here. It changes the effect. And so that, would be that, those final little touches would be that, just that highlight. And so I probably would put that here a little bit, probably bring more depth into the stalks, and just have fun with like the ground. I think that's always an interesting
Well,
thing.
feel free to keep going. We do still have time, so
Okay.
if you just want to
Yeah.
create,
Okay. Okay.
you are more than welcome to
Sounds
continue.
good. Let me work on these
Yeah.
lines a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free if you want to chat amongst yourselves. Or more questions are
I
always
think that
good.
you have people that want to just take a stab
Oh,
at it.
please, please.
You do.
Would you all like to? I would love for you guys to put your hand on this for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I don't want to ruin your beautiful.
No.
painting,
See,
though.
that's the thing. You can't.
Okay.
Because
Well,
this
really
is
good.
easy. So if you wanted to just kind of feel that and lay it down and you're just doing a base too, so that works really well. And so you're gonna take the
Oh, I
needle.
like that myself.
I know, careful not to.
I don't have.
And then if you just do a few like,
Just-
right to the middle, yep. And it will stay there, so you can take that finger away. So you just need a few good stabs to keep it placed. And then you can just take,
I like this.
and so you're not so much like this, but literally like poking it through, especially when you're getting the first base down, just to get those fibers down.
All right, well, I didn't ruin the painting.
Not at all, not at all. Anybody is welcome.
That's good. I know you were dying.
So I'm excited. There is there's a place in Rhode Island and Connecticut, Preston, Connecticut. They have the wicked tulips, that come up in the spring.
Oh,
yes.
And so
I
I
love
think I
Yeah.
could do that. I may have to ask before I go. But I think what is the ticket, I've seen like painters there.
Oh,
It would be
yeah.
really cool to go and set up an
Yeah,
easel
I know,
and
right?
just
Yeah, that would-
do that there. So that's my hope this spring.
Road trip.
Yeah.
Had a lot of pinks and purples. and
Yes.
all, right?
Yeah. I know, that
Spring
website has lots of inspirational colors to. So I have this little start of a green vine. I'm gonna take the brown and literally just kind of place it underneath. Now it's pretty, that has deep contrast to me right now. But then I'm going to go ahead and move it underneath a little bit so there's a little bit of the shadow. And then just add the
It's
darker
amazing
green.
how much control you have. I never would have believed it. Yeah.
And two, like it takes, it takes sort of
Oh, I'm
manipulation
sure, yeah.
and practice to do that too. But just the hint of it, just the hint. And it's just kind of mixing the colors for me right now. And there's to a point of like just going with the flow of what the fabric is doing and what the wool wants to do too. So I foresee this kind of curling it up and getting
I
some
like
curls
how people
going.
make little tendrils or, you know.
Yeah. This is nice. Front of the TV. It's just not focus on it, but I don't know about you, but I love TCM, and so it had like, all the scary like Frankenstein. I didn't really want to watch it, but I was listening to it in the background and enjoying this peaceful time. So yes, I guess, starting light and then going into dark. Having that light kind of feel, kind of pop through. I have two little kind of large masses here of the wool. I'm going to use that and kind of create the image as I go too. Fibers and work on top of it as well. Building it up. Again, like your palettes, like in your hand and being able to,
Now, is there a point where it's too thick and it won't adhere, or you know you've done it too?
Well, in any felting, so in the 3D felting, you have that mass and you're like constantly stabbing it, and so eventually it's the size that you want to stop at, or the details that you would want to be. So as I feel like mine's not as like condensedly concentrated as a 3D object and more of a loose kind of feel, I'm gonna keep it more on the loose side and not as condensed and not as binded and the wool felted almost. And so that's kind of my approach. Yeah. So there's almost to the point of it too loose where it's kind of like falling off.
Yeah.
But then there's also to the point where it's not, I feel a little bit that this is pretty dense up here. And so by moving and stroking and kind of working it, I can kind of make it feel that looser feeling, which is the preference.
It's such a three-dimensional effect where you can almost see the different levels of the wool even.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Natalie, what would be your minimum class size to go forward with the workshop on Saturday?
I think I will need, I was telling Cindy, I think I need a little bit more than, 4 or 5, so,
Okay,
yeah.
all right,
And I totally understand if that's not gonna work for this time,
okay.
but would be happy
Thank
to do something.
Really fabulous, really wonderful.
Thank you. It really is amazing effect. I was very pleasantly surprised. I felt a little bit rushed with the art walk, I think, but with this piece and a few others that I've done, just being able to have that time to sit and really think about it, but yet letting the wool do the art as well, and letting that, and as with any kind of medium and paint.
Thank you.